In 2014, Ukraine endured one of the worst European wars in recent history due to a conflict with Russia. It all started when former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych suddenly pulled out of a deal to join the European Union, a deal which would have united Ukraine with the rest of Europe. Pro-European Ukrainians were furious with President Yanukovych's decision and began to protest. After a week of protest, Russian President Vladimir Putin sent Russian troops into Ukraine to claim territory of Crimea. The Ukrainian government then initiates a resistance against Russian authorities in eastern Ukraine. The battle between the two sides resulted in thousands of casualties and a divide between Ukrainian citizens and pro-Russian rebels. Yuri, who was studying in the United States during the war in Ukraine, had family members involved in the riots occurring at the square.
When the revolution started, my brother was harshly injured during the Maidan. Of course, it was very painful, and because all of my family was on the square.
With all the ongoing violence, military officials removed Ukrainian citizens from their homes, forcing them to move to safer areas, also known as internally displaced persons, or IDPs. One of those IDPs was Olena, whose family was forced to move from Crimea to Kyiv.
I must say that I'm IDP from Donetsk. I used to live about 2 years ago in Donetsk, and thanks to Russian aggression, so I have to move to Kyiv. Now I live with my family in Kyiv. We didn't know anybody in Kyiv, so we didn't know anybody in Kyiv. I couldn't find a job, so we had a problem with housing and with everything. So we were in depression. So we were depression for a lot of time, but
With all the turmoil in Ukraine, citizens began to realize that it was time for them to take a stand.
It was just the realization that you have to do something. Your country is at war, the country is not ready, the people are at risk, the future of the country is at risk.
Citizens of Ukraine began forming volunteer efforts, non-profit groups, and community organizations providing assistance to fellow Ukrainians in need. One of those volunteers is Anastasia, who is an attorney by trade, but is helping her country with anything they need.
My role in the current situation in Ukraine is to do everything I possibly can. I apply every possible effort to the situation in my country to make it better and have peace set in.
These delegates from the Ukraine traveled all the way to the United States to learn more about organizing community efforts and to apply those skills to their volunteer work in Ukraine.
This trip has been most helpful. I've gained a lot of information. I was taking notes, and returning back to Ukraine with my colleagues, we will be developing amendments and changes in our laws.
During their trip across the United States, the Ukrainian delegation came to the University of Akron. They were brought to UA by Global Ties Akron, a nonprofit organization which collaborates with delegations all over the world.
I'm Michelle Wilson, and I'm the Executive Director with Global Ties Akron, which is housed right here at the University of Akron. It's an honor, and it's very humbling. For years we've been trying to get some delegations focused on refugee services, and especially for Ukraine. So it was very, an honor to be able to work with this particular delegation. So it's been a very enriching experience both ways for our community in Northeast Ohio and for the delegates from Ukraine.
Although Ukraine endured arguably the worst European war since the Yugoslavian divide in the early 1990s, a new spark of activism and a shift towards a democracy has Ukrainians excited for a brighter future. This has been Khalil Smith for Lights, Camera, Akron.